Hello, travel biz owner. Welcome to my corner of the travel industry, the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast. If you're ready to have fun, be inspired, get clarity, and take action in your travel business, then you're in the right place. Let's jump in. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm giggling because this is my third time recording the intro, so hoping that this is going to be the one that sticks. But welcome back. I am your hostess here, Rita M. Perez, and there are lots of fun and exciting things that are happening in the very near future, but there's also a lot of busy behind the scenes that are happening. So if you caught us on last week's episode, and by us, I mean myself and Corrine Johnson, it was the last episode in the summer selling series this year, which let me know what you thought about this year's summer selling series. You can go ahead in your podcast app right now, just hit send Rita a text with your thoughts. I think it says something like that, and it'll shoot me a message. It doesn't give me your contact details or anything. It's pretty anonymous. I can't wait to hear your feedback and all that. But I am super busy behind the scenes because, as many of you know, if you've been listening for a while, it is prep for Wave Week season. And we announced that at the end of the summer selling series last week because Corrine is actually going to be a prep for Wave Week. Not only that, she is also a partner with her cruise business blueprint. So super duper excited. But if you're like, what the heck is prep for Wave Week? It is really a virtual event that I've been putting on this will be the 5th year. I am just so stinking excited that we're here. We've made it. It's been like the fan favorite. So if this is going to be your first time, we will be prepping for the new wave season in 2026 / also a new book of business that comes with the new year. But we are not waiting till the last minute to get prepped. We are doing it even earlier because that was one of the big things that you all had told me last year, especially when we did the Plan Your Year workshop. You're like, we can't wait until November to do all this stuff. We got to do this earlier, which meant Prep for Wave Week had to bump up to September. Plan Your Year workshop has bumped up to October this year, and it's just got a whole domino effect because now I feel you are going to feel like so much more confident and be ahead of the game than scrambling, because if you've also had a different career that hasn't been just travel agency owner, you know that this is the time of year that the big corporate companies start thinking about budgets, start thinking about planning for the new year and all of that. Like, I remember when I was in the theme parks, this is the time where we started talking about like workflows and labor budgets and all that. So fun times ahead. So we're going to help get you there. So make sure that you register for that event if you're not already registered. Want to give a huge shout out to the other partners of the event. So we've got Assistants That Work. We've got Travify. Those are our two presenting partners. So huge thank you to Assistants That Work and Travify. I have partners because it helps make this event stay accessible, because there's a couple different levels that you can get in on. The free level, of course, and then we do have a couple of fan favorite upgrades, the study hall pass and that Plan Your Year workshop, which is super tactical, not about learning. You are doing this. I'm all about getting you to do the things that you are learning about and talking about. So super huge thank you to Travify and Assistants at Work that help us keep this event super accessible. And then also super huge thank you to Explore More Mexico, Find Travel, and the Cruise Business Blueprint for being our premier partners in this event. There's all sorts of fun things that are happening with our partners at this event too, because we got some interactive elements, some giveaways happening this time. We also have a pseudo virtual trade show that I'm hoping really packs a punch this year. So just more interactive elements to make you feel feel like a part of us. And I will be sharing some of the behind the scenes on Instagram. So if you're not already following me there, be sure to do so. As I am looking, I'm trying to get one of my reels with some of the behind the scenes posted, but it's a pretty hefty reel, so it is taking forever. But anyways, let's get into today's topic, which is really some of the business realizations. I haven't done one of these episodes in quite some time. If you know from a couple years ago when the Barbie movie came out and when the Threads app first came out, I really like to see the success that different things in other industries are having and how we can relate that to you as a travel advisor or a travel agency owner, because I think looking at other industries really does help see like how you can adapt certain things of what's working in that industry to your own business. And so there's been a lot of band stuff, musicians, artists type stuff that's been happening, and I'm like, there's a business lesson, there's business stuff that's happening here. So of course I had to share that with you all, and I do have my notes here. We will see how far off in tangents that I go, because I'm famous for that. Sometimes I go right and then I go left, but then I go back right again. So here we go. I don't know if any of you have watched the Netflix show Building the Band. Oh my goodness, I did not think I was going to be as addicted as I got to that show, but I did become addicted because it's very much like a Love is Blind meets Let's Put a Band Together, which, I mean, obviously had all the best elements to it. But the first, and like there's three big things with a couple of sub items when it comes to business realizations. So the first one is specifically when it comes to building the band is that you've got to put yourself out there in the right spaces and opportunities. And so all of these different musicians, I think we started like with 50 different people and they whittled them down, or maybe it was 100. I'm not really certain. I don't remember, but they started with a big group of people and then they had to whittle it down to just this smaller group of people because they could only make a maximum of 6 bands, and bands could be anywhere from 3 people to 5 people. We don't need to get into all the specifics, but I'm saying all those people were pretty much handpicked from this show. And I feel like a lot of these people were probably handpicked from social media, or maybe just some artistry that they may have been a part of before. Maybe they even auditioned for something like this. But the point that goes back to putting yourself out there is that you cannot, like, you just never know when the big opportunity is going to happen for you and your business. So you have to be open to saying yes to opportunities that can position you as a leader in the authority space that you have within the travel industry. So always be open to putting yourself out there. I know I've talked about this even for performers when it comes to America's Got Talent. So many people get so much more visibility, a bigger fan base. You're just able to do more things with the more eyeballs that are on you and your business. And not saying that you need to go on some sort of reality show or competition show or anything like that. It can just be maybe you have been invited to speak somewhere. Maybe you're able to pitch somewhere to speak. Maybe you've been invited to talk about your travel somewhere. You just don't know where the opportunity is going to come from. Coupled with that, so I mentioned it starts out with a big pool of musicians, and then that pool kind of dwindles down a little bit. I mentioned that because not everybody got the same visibility. So there's almost this kind of like, especially when we're thinking about the entertainment industry, there's a certain spark that kind of has to happen. When you're watching Building the Band, you're noticing people are looking for a certain style, looking for a certain tone, looking for like, there was a singer who does a lot of opera, but she's like, I cannot do opera. I have to do more of like the poppy sound when I'm here. So and that's like also this goes into like the niching conversation and branding yourself and being certain of who you are, but also who you're not. I sometimes feel being more certain of who you are not is more important when it comes to this, because a lot of people knew what they didn't want, but they weren't exactly sure what was going to be the right mix for what they wanted, so they took a chance. And so I feel like sometimes, like when we go to the niching conversation, we talk a lot about what you should be, but we don't talk a lot about what you shouldn't be. And that's probably an easier way for you to niche down, is figuring out what you don't want to sell in travel than what you do want to sell in travel, because maybe you can be a little bit malleable also. It doesn't have to be like so set in stone. It can just be like, you know, for sure you are never touching a cruise with anything in your body. Similar, it can also be like you are never touching any family trips, because that is not what you want to be doing at all. So figuring things out from that perspective. I say this because this helped a lot of people to figure out the groups that they were going to be putting together to help elevate their status within these competitions and within these games. It also just helped with the overall branding, because when you think of different brands, I have always wanted to teach like a branding class where it comes to like either boy bands or like the Spice Girls. Because you know, different bands, like if I tell you, if I say Spice Girls, and then I also tell you to compare, Destiny's Child. Two very different bands with two very different looks. This is what I mean when it comes to like niching and branding, is that you have to differentiate yourself. You have to distinguish yourself. What's going to make yourself stand out a little bit more? There's somebody on Building the Band, and I'm not sure exactly how I like this or not, but it is kind of her signature, or their signature, where they have like this radio wave makeup on their face, and that's what they're known for, and that's how you know who they are, and that's just their shtick. You know, Spice Girls, each one of them had their own shtick. We had Baby Spice was always in something kind of pink, Ginger Spice always in something kind of red, Sporty Spice always obviously something sporty, Posh was typically in something black but very fashionable, and then we have Scary Spice, also typically in black, but like was very daring with her fashion sense compared to maybe like Baby or Ginger. So you can kind of see like when the bands were forming, each of the bands had their own unique personality, their own unique sound, their own unique style as well. Like there was one of the bands that was a trio, a girl group, that they all wanted to be individuals, which, okay, but you also have to be cohesive when you're part of a group as well. So I just pick those types of things out. When it comes to like really putting yourself out there, this is part of what you're putting yourself out there, is your brand. And what does your brand look like? What does your brand feel like? But also, how are you making other people feel? I feel like this is part of like what made or broke made or broke some of the bands, in that some of the bands are making us feel a very certain way, and I didn't want to see you on my TV screen anymore. And there's some of the other bands that I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are like my types of nerdy people, like my weirdo people, and I really want to be around you. And you may have felt that about a band that I loved. You may have felt that about a different band that maybe I didn't love so much. But there's something special when it comes to music. Of course, it's going to be a little bit different when it comes to like being a travel advisor and a travel agency owner. But there are certain things that you make your clients feel. They are hopefully feeling super excited for whatever experiences that you have planned. And this like, I'm thinking about celebration, but also people who are wanting to come back into themselves and have a little bit more of a restorative trip. Or maybe this is somebody who is just out of a long-term relationship, or they're experiencing a death in the family and they really need to cope with the intense grief that they're experiencing. Sure, people can just go on a vacation because they just want to be on the beach, but there's so many other people that are also going on a trip to feel something, to be enlivened, to get back to themselves and who they used to be, because maybe they've lost themselves a little bit. Feeling something can also just be, I want to feel heard. I want my needs to be acknowledged. I want to know that you understand what my needs are. And that's there's a famous quote that people may forget what you've told or said to them, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And I think this is why many of us who watched the show Building the Band were so excited, because there were just vibrant, collaborative, also like juicy cultural type groups that we're putting together that just like excited us so much, but we could also identify ourselves in different people that were in the bands as well. So that feeling emotion, this is not something that you can teach per se, but this is something that you can probably work on if you're not really certain what exactly that means, having your clients feel something. Also, when I'm putting like a subcategory when we're here in this topic of putting yourself out there, raving fans. Like, my favorite band got gypped because they did not win on Building the Band. My favorite band was season 4. Their harmonies, but also they're just a beautiful band, amazing, kind-hearted people, and they can sing. And they not only can they sing, but they can perform. They do make you feel something. And so they're able to deliver almost on their process. Like when I break it down as a travel agency owner, this is your performance is that you are delivering on the experience that you have promised your client. And this is how you create those raving fans. I wrote other notes earlier this week because I keep hearing like referrals. So there's referrals that are just direct referrals, but those are also different than referrals that come out of client results. And so to create raving fans, I feel like there's a combination, because there's certain people that I might not ever do business with them, but I just love them, what they stand for, what they do, how they help people. And so I will refer their business day in and day out. They just make me feel good. And I think they're doing really great work. So that's one way that somebody can refer you. The other way that somebody can refer you is because they've worked with you and you did exactly what you said you were going to do, maybe even over-delivered on what you said you were going to do, or just blew them out of the water with their expectations in the trip that you planned for them. And this is how you make raving fans. So I feel like it's one of two ways. Like there's this whole emotional pool, and especially when we're talking about marketing our businesses, it's not just like you're laying out the facts and figures where there's the cruise ship is 500,000 tons, or the resort has 5 different pools and you can get oceans. What beyond? We got to go think about marketing a little bit beyond. And what are those experiences going to feel like? If somebody has told you that they want to go to trip for an X, how are the experiences that you're curating for your clients going to support that feeling? Whether it's a feeling of happiness, whether it's a feeling of being grounded, whether it's a feeling of finding your happiness again. So you have to like really think about that. Like, how can you curate raving fans? And I feel like really it's being a good human being and then also delivering on that client experience. Kind of going with that, like I mentioned, there's a big pool of people that were in this Building the Band kind of experience, but not everybody got highlighted and not everybody got featured. I feel like everybody was probably a really great vocalist, but you have to have that like va va boom. You've got to have like this extra like spark about you. Like, what makes you different? What makes you unique? You might not think that there's anything different or unique about you. I promise you there is. And if there isn't, then maybe we've got to do a little bit of inner work, because I know that there was a time that I just thought all I do is work. Like, I was working my full-time job, I was working my business, and that's all that I was. But we have to come back to like, what are the other things that make us unique? What are the other things that we're really passionate about? Is this community work? Is this meeting other people? Is this doing artsy fartsy types of things? So what are those special things about you that really like kind of, if you're thinking that like your gemstone might be a little dull, what can we do to polish that up a little bit so that you really shine bright? Because there is something unique about you, but then you also do have to be good. It's kind of like this perfect science. So the biggest realization that came with a couple other realizations was putting yourself out there and being in the right rooms. This also means like knowing who you are, between your branding, making other people feel something, taking a chance and being out there, and also being really great at what you do. Then I recently went to see some bands locally with my partner and his family. And I was like, this is a really great learning opportunity here too, because bands need to find places to perform. And I'm like, well, this is exactly like travel advisors who need to find their own clients, because the bands, their clients are kind of a multiple different things. It's the people who are at the venue, but it's also the people that own the venue or that run the venue. And it's this joint partnership. So that's kind of what that goes along. It's a subtopic to bands also need to find places to be seen and heard locally. It's easier for them to do that when they know what kind of a band or what kind of music it is that they play. Because, again, if we go to opera, I don't really expect to hear an opera singer at a brewery. And likewise, I might not hear hard rock and roll or metal at a theater, like a performing arts center. So finding the right places where your people are going to be is super important in alignment, or the people that patronize one or the other are going to be really confused. Because they might be like, why did you go here? This has nothing to do with like the types of things that we like. The other part of that is that not only were the bands playing, but some of the bands also had merch. So the importance of upselling and not being afraid, because it wasn't a hard sell. It was like, hey, if you would like to grab any merch, right behind there, we've got a merch lady with a couple different items. If you're interested and you'd like to support us. I didn't feel pressured. Some of the family members went to go ahead and grab a couple things to support the band. I just think it was another level to add on to the experience, which is exactly what you do when you're planning trips for your travel clients. There's the base level that they came here for, but then you are the expert and you know other things that you could sell that, one, helps you with your sales, but two, enhances their experience and really either makes it more meaningful or adds on to the reason why they're going on this trip, or brings just so much joy or so much memories. There's certain purposeful things that you can add to your client's experience that does not have to be just the bare minimum that they came there to you for. So leaning in on that and being comfortable with that, because again, the right types of clientele want you to sell them the experiences. They are making a hefty investment in you and your services. They want to make sure that you've thought of everything for them. Like, they don't want to go to their destination and be like, oh, why didn't so-and-so tell me about this? I would have loved to have done this, and then come back home and feel a little gypped. Do not be afraid of upselling and putting yourself out there because you are doing a service to your clients. Does it help you in your bottom line? Of course it does. But instead of thinking about it from that way and a sales perspective, service is sales. So think of it in that aspect and being comfortable to upsell different items, or at least offering it to your clients, because let them be the ones that pick and choose things also. This was also really great when it comes to joint ventures, because the band just can't play on the side of the road, just can't play in the road, can't play just at their house. I mean, I guess they could if they wanted to YouTube and things like that. It was this joint venture partnership that I saw, because the location was actually celebrating like its 10th year being a brewery, and wanted to get some bands to get more people out there celebrating their 10th year anniversary. This was also like a thank you and appreciation for the people that patronized their brewery. And so you can see like, and I don't know, we didn't pay anything, so I'm assuming that maybe the bar with the sales kind of may have paid the musicians that way. But that is a perfect example of a joint venture partnership. The bands definitely do not brew, and the breweries definitely do not put on music, but them working together is perfect, especially if they get the right bands. And there was a variety. We had like country band, then we had a little folksy, and then we left a little early, so we only listened to two, but there was a third band that was coming up. So, but that was kind of like the vibe. I feel like if there was pop star, it would not have worked there. But being able to find kind of like your allies locally, who are those? Are these local stores? Are these other bands? Because that was the third big realization that I had. I was just booming with different ideas of how travel advisors can work with musicians or artists to put travel groups together, and even like how you can put breweries together, because clearly the brewery has been in business for 10 years. That place was packed that weekend. They have raving fans, because obviously there's people that come in and day out that they wanted to celebrate this momentous occasion. So if you're able to partner up, and there's things, I feel like there's like green flags when it comes to figuring out like who are the best people to partner with. And is it like, how long has somebody been in business? What kind of following or community? What kind of raving fans do they have? Raving fans? How many raving fans that do they have? And you can find this out by how many people are going to their businesses, but also like, do they have an email list? Are they pretty active on social media? Are there always people that are at the place? Those are different like green flags that would be like, this might be a really great opportunity. And it doesn't just have to be breweries. I'm thinking wineries and things like that, but it doesn't also have to be just wineries, because the bands and the musicians that we saw had their own following. So maybe it is that you're putting groups together with breweries. Maybe you're putting groups together with bands or musicians. Now, when I think about this too, you have to put them on the right spot, the right vessel, or at least like theme it appropriately, because the crowd that was there, I'm gonna say they're probably not luxury type people, maybe premium type people, maybe more mass market type people. So that is also another consideration when you're thinking about joint venture partnerships. Who are you going to partner with? And then what are you going to do, or what is the research that you're going to do to make sure that you're matching them up with the right product that is going to be something that everybody is going to be happy with in the end, both whoever your partner is and then also their clientele that they're going to be bringing with them, because they're essentially serving as your Pied Piper. You're just putting all the travel logistics together for them. So thinking about that, like bands, musicians, I was thinking like performing arts centers, and I'm sure like there's different troops, because I know that there's performing arts centers and even like youth centers that are always putting on different performances. Could you do it like as a fundraiser for some of these nonprofit organizations as well, if you bring their groups on a trip, or if you put them on a cruise ship together or anything like that. So just so many ideas, different floating, different. My words. But I hope you get the gist, or at least are super excited about different ideas, especially when we're thinking about fall and joint partnerships. Kids are going back to school, so you might be able to get your head on straight if you do have any little ones or anybody that's still in school, that you can start focusing on your business again. And how do you get out there? How do you put yourself out there? Also focusing on like what are different tweaks that you can make within your client experience that really pushes that raving fan status to the edge, that people can't help but sing your praises in rooms that you're definitely not in. And then also getting creative. Who can you partner with? And it's not like, if I was travel advisor, clearly had lots of ideas about this whole brewery band idea, I'm not going to be immediately pitching the people from there, but I'm going to be taking note. I might be attending more of their events. I might be seeing them more in person if it's the bands, or I might be going to that brewery more often, so that I can start creating a relationship with the people behind the scenes, so that when it's time, when I feel comfortable to go ahead and be like, hey, you know what? You've got lots of people that are fans of yours. I feel like maybe taking them on a trip to breweries in Europe, or to breweries in New England or in the South, or whatever it might be a really great trip. They might really appreciate it. No other breweries in the area are doing trips like this. And we can talk about different travel perks for you as the leader. Is this something that you might be interested in? And pitching it to them that way. But again, it's kind of like dating. You can't just pitch them from the first outset. So overall, the big three realizations that I had from all these band things that have happened this summer is the importance of putting yourself out there. That's probably one of the most important things. Like, you cannot just hide and shy away. People need to know about you. They need to know about your business. And the only way to do that is start putting yourself out there. This has been a big thing for me, and I'm hoping like in 2026, I'm able to like physically go, but I have been scheduling coffee chats up the wazoo. And so there's been a lot of people that I've been able to connect with on LinkedIn, and I'm like, LinkedIn or Instagram. And I'm like, I think we need to know each other. And so it can start simply just as that. Like, I think we need to know each other, but you constantly need to be connecting or reconnecting with people who are in your network to stay top of mind. So putting yourself out there, finding the places to be seen and heard. They're not all one size fits all. You've got to find the right places where you think your clients are going to be at, or the types of clients that you want to be working with, or even this could be just referral partners. Are these networking events that you can attend, and maybe they don't need your services, but they know somebody else who might need your services. And then number 3, getting real creative on how you can find different group opportunities. And this can be like, maybe you just start going out of your box and just attending different community events and seeing like, who are the people that are out there? What are people doing in your local community? Because I feel like that is very underserved. We talk a lot, and I do love digital marketing, but there are still really amazing ways of connecting with local business owners and like putting kind of like almost being a coalition for each other to refer out business. And so that's definitely not a tactic that I would sleep on what other local businesses can you partner with, probably do some joint venture trip with as well. So let me know what kinds of questions you might have coming up from this episode. I know we were a little all over the place, but I hope this was also very good reminders on visibility, marketing, and also pitching yourself, and hopefully gives you a boost of confidence to put yourself out there. Until next week, and also don't forget, save your spot at Prep for Wave Week. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. Remember to check out the show notes for all relevant links and resources from today's show. See you next time.